You're listening to episode 98 of the Cutting Room Movie Podcast. This is our season 7 premiere. As always, as usual, I'm your host, Tom Detloff, and around the table with me this evening is Mr. Joe Christiana, Billy Barassa, and Jeff Schreck for the next 2 episodes. Joe Christiana has designed some laugh riot activity for us. His theme is shenanigans or how a Marxist laughs. Joe, what the hell is going on?
I think the claim there, or the what I'm hinting at here, is that the Marx Brothers are the forefathers of this type of humor.
Okay, all right,
right. So we're gonna get to the Marx Brothers in part
next
2
episode,
of the episode.
We're gonna do the Marx Brothers. We're doing Duck Soup, and we're also gonna be doing some Mel Brooks. We're gonna talk about Blazing Saddles. So there's a lot to cover there. But today we're concentrating on the Police Squad nonsense, the Naked Gun movies. Our focus is the Naked Gun 2.5, starring Leslie Nielsen, brought to you by the great Zucker Brothers and Jim Abrams. Really great stuff there because there's so much to talk about, from Airplane to Top Secret to obviously the Police Squad and Naked Gun stuff, and so much other things we could talk about, which is going to be a lot of fun. I'd like to say hi to everyone, too, because we've been away for a little while. Like I said, this is our season 7 premiere. We're
lucky number 7.
Yeah, we're back in the saddle. We're 2 episodes away from our 100th episode, which is very exciting. I can't wait for that. So, Joe, we are doing some listen, usually, you know, you normally program the season premieres. You always go first. You're you're like the big hunch here at TCRMP.
One of us. No. One of us.
You always have.
Is it?
Yeah, of course you get it. Come on. Yeah, this is.
I thought it was you the last time. But maybe I could be wrong.
It's never me. I even let Max go before I.
But you do the scheduling, so.
Right. Well, yes. I decide who's on each show, and then you guys will plug in the themes and the movies from there. But hey, listen, there's been a lot going on in the off season here, and Joe, I got to tell you, I'm excited to get to all this stuff, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to talk to you in just a couple seconds. But I gotta get this out because Billy is, as we all know here on the Cutting Room Movie Podcast, if you've listened to the show over the years, we all know how much of a science fiction fanatic Billy is. He's obsessed with outer space, and
it's in his intro, right?
His beloved Star Wars films have been thrown into the hands of J.J. Abrams. And I remember way back we were talking about Super 8, and it was just announced at that point that Lucas was, moving the rights to Disney, and J.J. Abrams was going to be taking over the Star Wars franchise. And Billy was so irate. He was so angry. He must have went on like a 15-minute verbal rampage about this.
There was one episode where he had a rant about J.J. Abrams, one movie or another.
Yeah, he was going crazy. He was very pissed off. So listen, the Star Wars comes out in December, and the whole world is waiting, and the whole world goes to see it. Probably, most maniacs are going to see this movie more than once. I went to see it. Joe has seen it. Not sure. Jeff, have you seen it?
Have not seen it.
Okay, Jeff hasn't seen it. So I give Billy about a week. I figure, let's see what happens. I know for a fact whether he likes it or not, he's definitely going to see the movie, just out of curiosity alone. I text Billy. I said, Billy, what did you think of Star Wars? Joe, he texted me back. I was pleasantly surprised.
That's a resounding review.
So
what's going on, Billy?
Enthusiastic about
that sounds like two thumbs present.
Billy, you liked it?
I also said at least there were no Beastie Boys interludes.
Right. And then I told him that the BB-8 robot, the droid, is named after the Beastie Boys' 8 albums.
Is that true?
And he wasn't happy about this.
I think I started swearing at J.J. Abrams again.
Yeah, it's true. He gets it in there. He figures out a way. He's not letting that go.
So what's your reaction, man? What was it? I haven't talked to you since then either. How'd you feel about it?
Is that me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
What,
It
what
was
thinking?
it was all right. It was fun because like I'm not really the hugest Star Wars fan anymore. Like I have been for years, and I can go on about the influence and everything, but it was fun for me because I got to take my nephew to see it,
Awesome.
and I went with my sister and her boyfriend, and so it was kind of like a family thing. I always like going to big movies with my nephews, and it's just fun, like it was a fun movie, and I it's just amazing to me that to actually sit down in a chair in a theater and just sit there and watch a movie like that is almost impossible anymore without like being pummeled senseless by advertising and hype and all this stuff. So it was like it's almost like I feel weird going to those movies now because you just have to dodge the hype and imagine you're just watching a movie and not the world's most earth-shattering cinematic event of all time.
Right, it's just Star Wars, man.
It's just a movie, just to have fun.
Yeah.
But
It's more than a
I
movie.
know, man. I mean, the thing is, like, it's definitely like a fan service movie where he's giving shout outs to everyone. I mean, like someone in their review, I don't remember who this was, basically said the job of that movie was to erase any memories of the prequel trilogy.
Which I don't really agree with. I don't.
What,
I
the
don't think
prequels are bad?
or that they need to be erased.
Right.
Really,
I'm
to be
with-
Yeah,
honest
but
with
in
you.
the
I'm with
minds
you
of
on
a
that.
lot of, and I'm of
know.
the same. This is why I'm very apolitical on the whole subject. But I know what fans say out there, and it was very much a job of in their mind they wanted to have the prequels scrubbed from their memory.
I understand. I get that because the diehards and these purists of the original episodes 4, 5, and 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
They like the vibe, the feel, everything that had to
The
do with that.
grit, the dirtiness, especially of Empire that Strikes Back.
Sure, the
Yep.
tactile quality of it,
Yeah.
which we've talked about so much about, when
Puppets
we were doing the
versus
horror
CG.
stuff with the CGI and all that stuff. But at the same point, I think that I love the movie, but I loved seeing it and everything going about leading up to it with my son and going and watching everything. I had a blast. But if I was gonna call it out, like the same thing that a lot of people are marking it as for being its merit, it could be to its flaw. Like there is an argument that could be made that it's too much of an homage as opposed to
I called it a
what
remix.
Lucas was.
It's a remix of
Yeah.
the first Star Wars movie.
Yeah, and to give Lucas credit, as whatever you may or may not think about those, the episodes 1, 2, and 3, he was actually trying to do something new and fresh and exciting, and he was risking a lot, especially by alienating so many devotees of the original series. But what he did with the original series was risk a lot and trying to do new things. You know what I mean? So So yes, it is in this new movie is very much in the spirit of that first one aesthetically, but
In 1977, Star Wars was the most bizarre thing they'd ever seen in their life.
Absolutely.
It was a really risky thing.
Right.
So, like, I just went back and watched The Phantom Menace because I've seen it many times, but my girlfriend wanted to see it, leading up to eventually seeing The Force Awakens when it comes out. So she's seen the original, 4, 5, and 6 trilogy, but she wanted to see the prequels and all this stuff. And it's just such a terrible movie. Like, The Phantom Menace is so bad. Like,
No,
it is
I
really
don't
hugely
agree with
badly directed.
What is that?
That's
Number
number
one?
one, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't.
And it's
I
just.
think it's.
I
liked it. Too.
Joe and I were together recently, and I said that I think the one credit to the Phantom Menace is that I think it has the best lightsaber duel in all 6 films.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, just just the way it's choreographed, the music, the intensity. Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn. To me,
love seeing that. See, I loved seeing the Jedi Federation too. Like the Jedi's like in full force and full power.
Right.
Like that's so fucking great, man. After there's like hints and talk about it in all those other movies.
So wait,
in 4, 5, and 6, and then all of a sudden you see all this whole this like glory of the Jedi, Federation.
So are we gonna do a Star Wars episode now? Is that before we even? Get
I do want to. Okay, sorry.
No, I because I will parse this shit out if you want me to.
I know we could probably talk just and live here. I
think the one thing I'll chuck in there is that I love that the prequel trilogy did take risks and had ideas. I think George Lucas's number one mistake of all time was not handing the screenwriting and directing reins over to other people.
Someone else.
Because
just George to give Lucas, it a fresh look into
I think that George Lucas is an absolute genius for creating a large scale understructure of mythology, and he has a mixed master's brain for taking everything from mythology to 50s movie serials to personal feelings and blending them all into something that feels transcendent, and it's amazing.
He confused Joseph. He confused Joseph Campbell with like the cliffhangers of the 30s or whatever.
But he, as a writer, is not great, and as a director, is not great. He is absolutely brilliant at creating a structure that writers can follow and directors can execute. And the evidence is at The Empire Strikes Back, which is not just not just the best Star Wars movie, but a fantastic movie just on its own.
I agree.
And I think he really screwed up by not passing those responsibilities on to other people for the prequel trilogy, because if those movies had had better scripts and been better directed, no one would be complaining about them at all. They would, So
you're not even suggesting that. Like it being done, or 3 films being done by different directors. You're saying that if one good director did all 3 of those films.
Sure. Well, for instance, the next one, episode 8, is going to be directed by oh God, I never remember this guy's name. He directed Looper and
Right.
Ryan something. I never remember his name.
Ryan Johnson.
Ryan Johnson. Really super talented guy, and he's writing the next 2 movies, the screenplays for them, and he's directing the next one. I have high hopes for that because I love the idea of people interpreting the Star Wars universe, idiosyncratically, and I always felt that Lucas should have done that for the prequels. People would have given them a lot less shit, and they would have had more normal cinema structure to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with that. Can I throw out one our theory, Tom, that we had talked about the other night before we move on to the Naked Gun? Real quick,
let's do it. Sure, real quick.
Because I don't think it's been tossed around out there much. I think it was guessed at or before this.
But Joe,
this last movie came out.
It's out there.
Is it? I think people were thinking about this before the movie came out. I'm sure it's out there.
Before it came out, absolutely.
Yeah, before it came out. But I think that it actually holds water. I've been talking to my son about it every morning. Have you been thinking about it recently, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something I immediately thought about when the film ended. When The Force Awakens ended, I was just like going through my head about how the next film should kick off, and with the thing that you and I talked about, what you're about to let out of the bag, it definitely is. It's definitely what we're talking about here.
Right.
You guys have me on the edge of my seat. I'm so excited.
So my theory, you probably thought about this.
It's not.
It's not. I mean, there. It's such an homage, and it's holding the original series in such reverence that I think that there's no way that it can't also follow up on the themes of that familial, generational conflict of the younger generation coming and displacing the older generation. Like it's in it goes through all of it, right? Now, and I'm thinking like, okay, so Kylo Ren and Rey, they're cousins basically, right? Because Kylo Ren is the son, right?
But that's still only a theory because you're not really sure who Rey is.
Right. So I'm almost willing to bet that Rey is the daughter of Luke
Skywalker.
Luke,
okay.
Right? So what doesn't hold the gravity of what the original series had, which, was sort of was laid down and it kind of carried through in the prequels as well, is the father-son gravity. You know, a cousin fighting their cousin doesn't work on that level.
Especially for 3 episodes, and especially after Ray has already pretty much kicked Kylo Ren's ass.
That's more Hatfields and McCoys. Than...
Right. So my theory is that Luke is, to drum roll please, Luke is going to end up being a part of the dark side. Like he's turned to the dark side, and he's somewhere behind this Snoke character, and that I just don't think that there's any way that Luke is not part of the dark side right now, and Rey is going to have to basically try to unseat him or fight him or whatever the case is.
I like it.
I like it too, and I thought that the way to kick off the next episode would be if they, like, he's facing her for the first time at the, listen, if if you haven't seen this movie already, whatever, he's facing, they're face to face at the end of The Force Awakens. And I was thinking it would just be great if they started off episode 8 with Luke just immediately attacking her and fighting her.
I think that would be cool, but that they won't ever do that.
That would be like,
I know, I agree with you.
Just unexpected, like, she hands him that lightsaber and he's, or even better, like, doesn't he have now we're going to get really geeky here. Doesn't he have a lightsaber, a green one that he built, after
Return of the Jedi,
you have the lightsaber.
Well, the lightsaber.
And he already has that lightsaber. That blue one was lost
in Empire Strikes Back. When
Empire Strikes Back, yes. So this is the thing. Like, he already has that green lightsaber that he constructed himself. Now she has this blue lightsaber that was supposedly lost during his fight with Darth Vader at the end of.
Oh, and that's how that weird chick who ran the restaurant or whatever, the cafe.
Right.
Yeah, it all makes sense to me, and it's actually, even if you look even further into what happened in this 7 episode, Kylo Ren is a good guy trying to be bad. Like he's inherently good,
he's
even
bad,
though
Joe. He's bad.
He's bad. Yeah, he killed Han, right?
Of course,
I mean, that's terrible. But this is gonna be the struggle, is that Rey won't be able to defeat Luke on her own, so she's got to try to enlist Kylo Ren to turn over to the good side.
That's interesting stuff.
I know that is so in line with all of the underpinnings and the mythological underpinnings of what Lucas originally set down, and in the first 6 movies. You know what I mean?
But do you realize how difficult of a decision it is to make Luke Skywalker?
I know my son refuses to believe it.
Nobody will believe it. Nobody, from your son to someone that's 80 years old, will want that to happen.
Well, anybody out there on YouTube who thinks that I'm wrong, I challenge you. I'll bet you all 50 cents. That's what I've been telling my son every morning. I'm putting forward these theories about how this is what's going to happen.
Every morning you wake up with a new theory?
Well, I just continue to support this theory. I'm building
a case.
I assure everyone there will be more Star Wars to come. There's definitely a lot more coming. Jeff has been so busy writing reviews on Letterboxd, is it, Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically reviewing any movie out there that no one's ever heard of on Letterboxd, right?
Yeah. What was the one? It was I can't think of the Straub Roulette. I don't know. Some like super pretentious French people.
I don't know where you're finding these movies, Jeff. But
what is Letterboxd?
Why don't you explain it real quick? This way the listeners know, and you could fill Jeff and Joe and Billy in.
It's Are you familiar with Goodreads?
Yes,
it's that for movies.
Okay. So
yeah, just like a cataloging and reviewing site. So
you're like an official writer for this site?
No, it's like all users.
Gotcha.
It's any old ding dong can have an account and review.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Stuff. Cool. Send a link. We'll post it on the thing. I'll check it out.
Yeah, definitely. But he's hard at work. I mean, I've seen a few of them, and he's definitely he's writing about movies, which is pretty awesome.
It's like a couple of years I've been like wanting to take writing about it, more seriously and like try to pay.
Yeah,
attention to it more.
cool.
'Cause
I hope being on this show has helped you.
Oh yeah, definitely. And because I find like my memory is so poor that it really helps to like I'll read back to something from even like a month ago that I wrote about. It's like I didn't even remember why I liked it or disliked it.
Right. Or you're like, you probably don't even remember watching the movie.
Yeah, I've definitely like
Yeah,
like
dude,
gone
so
through my list.
you're doing the Naked Gun 2.5 in just a couple seconds. I got to ask you this question, Jeff, because you and I are brothers. I mean, is it just me, or do you get that Police Squad theme song stuck in your head for like periods of time?
It's so good.
It's so amazing. Like I'm just in the shower and I'm like, I got it playing in my head. It's like it's so great. It's just,
And
it's as good as like the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme song.
Yeah, and that plus that police light sequence that they use for all the like it's just such a perfect combination.
Right, it's genius, man. Those guys are wild. Well, listen, Joe, Billy, Jeff, let's get going. We're going to talk about Police Squad, The Naked Gun, Frank Drebin, and my favorite subject, hopefully, O.J. Simpson. So, Jeff, why don't you kick things off here with your intro to The Naked Gun 2.5. Do it.
He's on the show. He's not on the show. He's on the show. He's not on the show. Hey, kid, can you make up your mind already? He's Tom's brother from another mother, the Ayatollah of rock and roller, Mr. Jeff Shrek.
I really hate to have to start this review off by being negative about a film that mostly works, but the film itself starts off making a huge mistake, so I feel justified. In the first Naked Gun, and surely going back to the Police Squad series, which I unfortunately haven't seen any of, we meet the character of Frank Drebin and learn that he is a well-meaning but bumbling klutz of a detective. Any mistreatment of an innocent person is accidental instead of malicious, and is funnier for it. The Big Gag in the beginning of The Naked Gun 2.5, however, has Frank acting out of character in order to go for a big laugh, and it doesn't work because it just doesn't feel right. He's being honored at a presidential dinner that is doubling as a dinner honoring an energy expert. While President Bush is talking to and about this expert and other energy company big shots, Frank has started to eat an oversized, messy lobster. It's loud, it's going all over the place, and the lobster's claws are frisking the woman seated next to Frank. Somehow, he hasn't noticed or doesn't care that no one else has started eating yet. This was our introduction to Frank. It might be funny, but this isn't the Frank that we've come to know. He would never be this outright rude. The film then goes on to mix some genuinely funny moments and one-liners with some flat gags and watered-down retreads of jokes that worked in the first film. The Zucker, Abrahams, and Zucker team just doesn't seem to be working as hard as they did on the first film, and would get even more lazy in the dreadful third film of the series. But their comedy instincts are still strong. George and Barbara Bush are central characters throughout the film, and instead of having John Rourke do a subpar Dana Carvey and simply repeat all of his famous sayings, read my lips, no new taxes, and the like, they put the focus on making Barbara, a respectable older lady, into a constant target of slapstick violence. It's silly and absurd, and also timeless. Timelessness is so important to comedy. I watched the whole trilogy within a few days since they were all streaming and I hadn't seen the whole thing before, and I saw a real decline in quality. When I say that Zucker and Abrahams and Zucker got lazy, it's evident in the third film when a character is suddenly at a press conference podium during a spell of violence and says, "Can't we all just get along?" in reference to the Rodney King beating of a year or two earlier. He's just repeating a famous phrase from culture. It's not that funny on its own. Neither is a reference to the big twist in the crying game that comes out of nowhere. The team of Seltzer and Friedberg would latch onto this method and make a career out of making a simple reference and using it to get a fleeting laugh of recognition. Family Guy would do the same thing, and it unfortunately has been a negative influence on the direction of The Simpsons, formerly one of the best shows on television. But enough negativity. Leslie Nielsen was a treasure. Comedy played with a wink can get tiresome real quick. David Wayne's recent They Came Together is a great example. Those characters are in absurd situations and look like they know it, and it ruins the joke. Nielsen never breaks, not even for a second, to the point where it seems like the man himself may have never laughed once in his life. He's great. So is George Kennedy, and Priscilla Presley, O.J. Simpson, Robert Goulet. They're all taking the role so deadly serious. If only someone could go back in time and tell the cast of a mugfest like Scrubs to take some notes, we'd all be in a slightly better world than we are now. But goddamn, that Leslie Nielsen is one funny son of a bitch.
No doubt about it, man. No doubt about it. Hey, what does he say again? One of the best lines in the second one is he goes, "Hey Ed, I hear Edna's pregnant again."
Yeah. He's like, I'll kill this.
If I catch the guy that did it. Yeah, I mean, to me, a great comedy is one that we could just share lines with endlessly. And there's no doubt about it that these guys have been able to do that, whether it was, the airplane movies or the Naked Gun movies or whatever. They've created these things where whether we're at work or whether we're doing whatever we're doing with our families and blah, 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 we're repeating the things that they've written down because they're just so funny, Jeff. And there's no doubt about it that these guys are masters when it comes to what they're doing. And you're right. They've influenced I mean, when you say Family Guy and you say, unfortunately, The Simpsons go in this direction eventually, and you refer to it as unfortunate. I'm curious about that.
The influence is
with the pop culture references.
Yeah, like when that starts to take over, the just kind of genuinely absurd humor. Because I feel like in the first movie, I'm trying to. I watch them all so quickly, like it's like
they blend together, right?
Sure, they do. No doubt about it.
But from what I can remember, like there's really no like major, like pop culture, like one-liner. Like
true.
Third one, true. And that third one, and then stuff that got influenced by that, that's what I feel like created that influence that is unfortunately,
Yeah, the third one is not that funny. There's a scene where Fred Ward blows something up, and I remember he's like doing the Beavis and Butthead laugh, and it's like,
and what's funny, I saw that one first. I saw it in the theaters when it came out.
Yeah,
I was 11, and it was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen. Like the whole movie was like a laugh a minute, to the point where I remember in my memory I was like, oh yeah, no, that's a great movie. And then I watched it, last week.
It didn't hold up.
And that first like 5 minutes, that Untouchables train sequence, is brilliant.
It's good. Yeah, it is really good. Yeah, when they're spoofing. Yeah. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Joe, the Naked Gun, man. This is something. I mean, where's this coming from, dude?
It's my new release. What else was I going to pick?
I'm not even using that term for this. But apparently, they just re-released the. Is it 2.5 or is it all of them on Blu-ray?
I don't know. I think it's the Blu-ray. Honestly, of course, it's a stretch. This is a new release. It's obviously not a new release. Although it doesn't beat
Billy's new release of Possession from our old horror days. That's still his champion.
That's the oldest new release that we've got. Yeah. Well, it was re-released, so that's what I'm sticking to. Look, I wanted to. First of all, the last bunch of episodes were incredibly heavy, and I fucking got beat up like fucking crazy with that one with the photographic image at Max and all that bullshit. So I was like, I just want to have a light show, and also I just realized that I hadn't shown my kids any of these movies, the Marx Brothers or Mel Brooks or the Naked Gun. So.
Yeah, I think that's what's the important thing here, in a sense, Joe, with these films is that, Jeff used the word timeless, and it's great to see if they stand up to, the younger generation. Do they find this funny? And Joe, I ask you, do they find it funny?
Well, first of all, I do want to say that's a really neat point that you guys were talking about there. And I hadn't even thought about that before, is that the best of all three of these guys, all three of these filmmakers that we're covering are better when they're not relying on pop culture references.
Agreed.
And you know what I mean? And I think it's just weird when you guys were talking about that, and that like the lifespan of this series, this franchise or whatever, the Naked Gun, you could see that they started off where they weren't anywhere near pop culture. They were just using basically a skeleton to hang their jokes on. And then as the series progressed, and then the last one, when they started, relying on pop culture, it may have worked at the time, but it's empty. You know what I mean?
Eventually it is. Yeah. Yeah.
It only works. It only works for that like 6 months right after whatever that event is.
Right.
And
which is fine if it's Saturday Night Live, but
yeah.
Right.
And they went to go and did the Scary movies, right? Is that correct?
No, that's not them, I don't think.
Yeah, it is.
I think it is one of the Zuckers.
Yeah, I think. Oh, the Zucker. Yeah, they do. They have their hands in that. One of.
Yeah, and that's heavy. That's way into the '90s irony business, right? With the they're like just referencing all kinds of movies, and that's basically
The only one they're listing is Scary Movie 3 and 4, which is 2003 and 2006.
Okay, all right.
I got tuned into it eventually, so.
Yeah, that was just an interesting point. But yeah, I showed it to my kids, and you know what I showed? I ended up showing them Spaceballs and Naked Gun 2.5, and Night at the Opera. So the Naked Gun 2.5 went over the best actually with them. I think Spaceballs
more than Spaceballs.
Yeah, you know what? I found that Spaceballs didn't hold up as much as I thought it would, to be honest with you. And I think maybe it had to do with that very same thing, is that it was so reliant on the material that I was kind of goofing on,
Right. Yeah, I'm just really surprised that they didn't catch on to the. I mean, I haven't seen Spaceballs in a while, but I would think that would continue to work.
There's with Mel Brooks, I think of all of them, he's the guy who's like leaning on popular culture references.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean?
Yeah. He did eventually. He didn't start out that way, but by the 80s, he was pretty much just spoofing things,
Yeah, and I think that's where it sort of fails, because there's a lot better. There, oddly enough, there are a lot more Star Wars spoofs out there that are better than Spaceballs on YouTube at this point, which we watched when I was down there actually the other night, Tom.
Yeah.
That Saturday Night Live's goofing, you know what I mean? Like those were funnier
Undercover
than Spaceballs.
Boss is Kylo Ren.
Yeah,
genius.
I'm 90% sure that Matt is Kylo Ren.
Yeah. Yeah. We did watch that, and that was absolutely hysterical. Undercover Boss. Oh my God. Here's the thing too, with these films, it's without Leslie Nielsen. I mean, you got to wonder if any of this stuff could work as well as it does. And, starting with his, with their collaboration with him with Airplane, which is just one of the best comedy pictures ever made. He has this deadpan seriousness that's just out of this world, and every line that's delivered is funny. I mean, almost every line, the way he delivers it, you're laughing. It's almost a shame with him, because I think he could do serious work, and I know that he does some serious work here and there, throughout his career, but I mean,
mostly before these
mostly
movies.
Before a little, like, listen, he was in Creepshow in the 80s, between The Naked Gun and
right.
Airplane, and he's just absolutely fantastic in that role, and that with Ted Danson. I mean, they're both really great actually, and I just wonder if this guy, had any regrets just doing what he was doing and not doing serious work.
Well, I think he had a pretty long career before that, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, he might have just been satisfied with that, and once he saw how popular he was, doing that, he once he got that first laugh, he must have been like, "Oh, this is what I'm doing for the."
I guess kind of like George Kennedy's a bit more prestigious, but he wound up doing a lot of goofy comedy stuff, in the 80s, and obviously he's an Academy Award winning actor, so
Yeah.
That
And I did see a couple of interviews with him. He's a really funny guy, and he really embraces. And in fact, from what he said, it's so hard to tell what people say.
Right.
But the Police Squad series didn't do well, and it got canceled pretty early on.
quickly, yeah.
Yeah, and he actually suggested to the Zuckers from what he says, he suggested to the Zuckers to make it into a movie. He made a really interesting point in that, the Police Squad didn't work on television because you have to pay attention and watch it. And TV is kind of one of those things where you're only half paying attention, where that's kind of the big difference between going to the movies and watching something on TV.
Right.
In a movie, it's like you're there to give your full attention over. And the Zuckers didn't think that their material or their kind of humor could sustain feature-length films, But he was pushing for it, so
Right.
I think he really did he did embrace this kind of stuff.
Well, Billy, I know that this isn't Star Wars.
I know. I'll survive. I guess I'll talk about it if I have to.
There's no outer space involved,
No.
but you gotta love these films.
Well, The Naked Gun 2.5 was actually the first one in the series that I saw.
Okay.
And that was the first. I guess I'd seen Airplane before that, and Airplane I think is just genius. Like,
Absolutely.
I haven't watched it in a while, but it's one of those where like every couple of years it would pop up on the radar, and
Right,
every
of
time I
course.
laugh. I just think it's the dumbest, funniest movie ever. And I watched Naked Gun 2.5 again, and I thought it held up well, all things considered. And I still laughed. I mean, I was still, having a beer and laughing my ass off at the stupid shit. The thing that blew my mind was how humor, I hadn't put my finger on the whole pop culture thing veering off, but I'm definitely not a fan of humor that just repeats pop culture with a smirk. And
Yeah.
Family Guy is guilty of it probably more than any other, and it's just it used to be a cottage industry, and now it's the main industry of humor, it seems. And I thought, this movie opens with the first lady getting smashed in the face with a door, right? And I was like, you can't do that today. Like, no one even thinks of doing that shit today, Like, there was a sense of sacrilege that I was like,
Right.
wow, I grew up watching this shit. Like,
Right.
it was okay to make fun of George Bush and like, and these guys are conservative. Like, politically, they're pretty conservative. They were still having no problem, making fun of George Bush and smashing, Barbara. Like, didn't they have her hanging out the balcony by the end?
Right. And during his presidency too.
During his presidency, I was like,
right at the beginning, right in the middle of his presidency.
yeah, and it was like, it's not even terribly political. Like, political humor is popular these days, like, on talk shows and stuff.
Sure.
But, to just do stupid slapstick stuff, like, the other one that I always loved of theirs was Hot Shots, and a lot of people hate those movies. I was friggin' 14 when they came out. They were aimed right
I
at the
could
center of
never
my
get
brain.
in. I could never get into the Hot Shot movies. The first one's kind of funny, but
The first one is the first one where the second one is where they assassinate Saddam Hussein, right?
yeah, I wouldn't even know. I honestly.
It opens up with Saddam Hussein packing his lunch for the next day. Like, he's making a sandwich and putting it in a little lunchbox. And then he takes his shirt off and he has a bra strap tan line. And I was just like, I remember just being blown away when that came out. And people just don't do that these days, Like, it's very polite society these days in a weird way. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Like, politics are mean and everyone says stupid shit to each other in real life. And humor has gone the other direction where it's like almost too polite,
Huh.
What about Top Secret? Has anyone watched Top Secret? Because this
Pieces.
is something I've tried to do like multiple times in my life. I actually own a DVD where there's two movies. It's Airplane and Top Secret. And Jeff, I've tried to put Top Secret on numerous times, and I love Val Kilmer, and I love these guys, but I am like bored out of my mind after 20 minutes watching this movie. Have you ever gotten through it?
I've never watched that now.
Has anyone gotten through Top Secret? I mean, even if you're listening to the show right now, please go to our comment board. Tell me what I'm missing here, because there's just nothing there for me. And like I said, I love Val Kilmer. Real Genius is one of my favorite 80s comedies of all time.
Great.
Yeah, it's hysterical. But I just can't get... Billy, have you ever watched Top Secret?
Never seen the whole thing.
Never.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's where I'm at. And like I said, I own the film. I put it in, and I'm just like, after 15, 20 minutes, I'm like, this is just not good. It's just not funny. I don't know.
Can I say the shower scene in Naked Gun 2.5 is like still... I cannot resist cracking up every time that guy starts to sing.
Hector Savage.
The whole scene is great. I mean,
when he just cuts loose, and I was just like, that is the dumbest scene, and it makes me laugh every time.
I love that she doesn't realize someone's singing with her until like halfway through the song.
Yeah.
She's like,
the best too is they Drebin and Hector Savage break out into a fight, and one of them uses like the blow dryer, and then I don't know. I think Drebin, I could be wrong. Drebin just throws a towel.
He gets it
vice
thrown.
versa. It's the other way around.
And then he's like screaming, trying to tear it off of his face. Like,
it's like that towel was like the worst thing he could have done. Like,
well, they repeat jokes, and it doesn't even matter because they did almost the same thing in the OJ's hotel room in the bed or something, and somebody throws the pillow. Yeah, in the hospital.
And that works. That's one of the sort of like the retread. Like it works so much better in that first one because who I can't remember who it is, but the one character, he's trying to smother Nordberg, and then he throws the pillow at Frank, and that's it's so funny that pillow, like he still has the pressure on the pillow.
Yeah, I mean I think it's funny in both.
I agree with you, Joe. I actually find the towel funnier. I don't. Because I find that Hector Savage guy is just... Billy, great. You're right. That's fucking genius when he's singing in that pit.
He just looks so emotionally devastated.
He's like putting bullets into a gun or something, right? Isn't he?
He's putting the silencer on his gun.
Silencer.
And then he hears what she's singing, and he just looks heartbroken. And his reaction is the funniest fucking thing.
Billy, he's putting a silencer on a gun, but he's singing.
Exactly.
It's just so ridiculous.
I'm going to say this is not a masterpiece of a movie by a long stretch, but it is so funny to go back and look at these and be like, oh my God. Like, the irreverence is just awesome. I love the absolute irreverence. It's, I think we could do with a little bit of that these days.
I love that, there's so many jokes happening, and then you just let you can't help but after a while you just let your guard down, and then one just like blindsides you. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of expecting this and that and the other thing, and then once in a while you just can't. Your brain can't even keep up, and you kind of relax your brain, and then all of a sudden it'll just fucking come out of left field. Like I don't know if it's because the pranks are so funny, or sometimes it's just that I just let my guard down. Like stuff like when I just don't know why this struck me as so fucking funny when he's in the they're in the boat and he's gonna go. I think this is number 2.5, right? And he's gonna go in the water and he goes over the side and he hits the fucking dock.
Yeah.
The water's over there. Like it's the last thing I suspected. And
right. Just like in the first one, like I think it's the last scene where Nordberg is at the ball game and he's in the upper decks of the stands and they pat him on the back and the wheelchair starts going down. he hits the railing and just flips over like 6 times.
While Drebin.
Why is that so funny?
It's just because Drebin and Jane are still talking. They have no idea what.
Yeah, they let it like they don't follow him. They just let it happen in the background.
That's great.
Right. Like there's no real focus on it. They're still focusing on the conversation. It's brilliant.
Or I think it's in 2.5 where Nordberg comes. It's almost the same joke. Like Nordberg comes in like swinging like Tarzan or whatever, and he just passes him by. And they just look at him, and then I think he picks up his gun or something like that.
Oh man! And Weird Al pops up. Does he pop up in the third one, Jeff?
Yeah, him and Vanna White show up at the Academy Awards together.
That's right. Okay, I couldn't remember that. You're right. But he's in the second one. He's holding the precinct hostage or something, and Drebin comes in and
that's right.
Yeah, so he appears in all three movies, which is fantastic.
And he is such a perfect fit for that whole like style and those
absolutely.
guys.
I mean, and he made kind of a goofy comedy too in the '80s called UHF, which is really funny. I highly recommend that. If
it's
anyone
so good.
Hasn't seen Weird Al Yankovic in UHF, Michael Richards is in it. It's so funny. Again, they're kind of referencing a lot of stuff that was going on in the '80s too, but it's got a tight story and there's a lot of heart in UHF, which I totally appreciate. Does anybody at all, while watching these movies, and you're watching O.J. Simpson,
that is
it's too weird.
Is it weird? This is what I wanted. I need to get an answer from all three of you guys. Jeff, we'll start with you. Is it weird?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it uncomfortable?
I don't know if it's it's so hard, like, because he hasn't done anything yet, in the timeline of his. Well, yeah, because
nothing he would admit to.
Yeah. No, I think at this time he's just still beating his wife.
Yeah.
On a regular basis.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah. No.
Hasn't murdered anybody yet. But it is kind of weird, and I'm watching it, and I just I don't know. I love like it's Nordberg, it's Nordberg. But
I think it was just because it was such a flip in his persona when that happened. Because even after that he just became a villain. Like he obviously was a villain by murdering people, but
Yeah. All right.
Like
Billy, you weirded out by OJ?
I mean, it's creepy. And the thing is, like,
I love it.
I saw this even before, the shit hit the fan with him, and I hate sports guys in movies. I cannot stand them because their acting is so shitty. Like, they're not funny. They can't act. They're awkward in front of the camera.
Yeah.
I hate sports guys in movies. Can't stand it. Absolutely hate it.
I'm trying to think.
The last one I watched was Ted 2, where Tom Brady is in there.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, he's not fucking funny, man.
Right, when they're just kind of like bringing in the name to...
I will say...
never funny.
Well, I agree with you mostly, but I will say that this one movie that I just watched with that Amy Schumer Trainwreck had Kobe Bryant in it. Has anybody seen that?
No, but if you
really
say that Kobe Bryant's a good actor, though, I think I'm going to wrap it up.
He's not a good actor, but he's really funny. It's really funny the way that what he does in that, what they do with him in that movie. It really is. Too bad you guys haven't seen it.
No, no, and I probably will never see it. Actually, Joe. Whatever. But I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, like, because I was watching, and this is a movie that I like, but it's a serious movie that has a professional athlete acting, and of all people, Lawrence Taylor in Any Given Sunday does a really good job. But I guess he's just basically playing himself. Are you saying, Billy, when they're trying to do like comedy work, like in who is it? Brett Favre and There's Something About Mary and Tom Brady.
Yeah,
so weird. Yeah,
it's just so awkward. They're just I don't know. I don't know, man. It just makes me really uncomfortable. It makes my skin crawl whenever an athlete shows up on, like, even like Lance Henriksen in that Vince Vaughn movie. It's like every time they show up on screen,
Lance Henriksen, the actor?
No, Lance Armstrong.
You're still stuck on Sci-Fi.
I'm sorry. Did I say Henriksen?
Yeah, Billy's like he's like in the Aliens universe.
I also just started watching the new X-Files series, so
God,
I'm going to Millennium, I guess.
Are you into the X-Files, Billy?
Oh, I was a hardcore X-Files.
Oh, I bet you are.
I watched it from the 3rd episode.
Oh man,
yeah,
I could never get into the X-Files.
My nerd credentials run deep.
Oh, that is.
I'm sorry. I want to take it back to the sports thing.
Okay.
The sports act. I have one example that I just thought of, and I think this might be the one exception, is Dick Butkus in Johnny Dangerously.
Okay. Where did that come from?
I just popped in there.
Johnny Dangerous.
I am Googling the shit out of that right now.
Well, that's a good movie. Amy Heckerling did Johnny Dangerously, and it's actually a pretty funny movie.
I love that movie.
Keaton and Piscopo. Piscopo is funny in that movie, and he's rarely funny. You know, I mean, especially he's funny on SNL. Don't get me wrong, but he's made some duds.
All I know is that movie was great, man. He was freaking awesome in that movie. I really dug that.
Yeah,
one.
That's a good film, man. No doubt. Well, that's a good call, Jeff. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything else. But OJ definitely, has a big presence in the Naked Gun movies.
Yeah,
it's like part of the Naked Gun family, really. I mean, he's in all 3 movies, and he's part of Police Squad, for crying out loud. So, he definitely has a huge presence. Real quick though, speaking on OJ. The People versus O.J. Simpson on FX. I watched the first episode. Please check this out. It's one of the most hysterical things you will ever see in your entire life. Please watch this show. It's funny as hell. If you watch it,
why is it?
Because it's just cartoon.
Oh,
it's not supposed to be funny.
It's not.
It's not supposed to be funny.
Okay.
No, but I am taking an exception here. I think it's just. And Max kind of agrees with me too. So, if you care about Max Cook's opinion, anyway.
Now,
let me rush to it right away.
Yeah.
Now, what are they doing? Like sort of over the top, mid '90s, like
it's just
hair and clothes and
makeup.
Production design.
John Travolta, his makeup and hair for the Robert Shapiro character is ridiculous. The guy who's playing Kato Kalin.
You guys have been having a little Facebook chat about this, the ridiculousness
right. So he and Max, I mean, Max loves the whole, I mean, he was out there, so I mean, I'm sure he's completely intoxicated when it comes to anything OJ. He gets all over that shit. But like I said, I just watched that first episode and we're talking about OJ. Just wanted to throw a shout out there for it's not like I'm endorsing Madoff with Richard Dreyfuss or another TV movie, but anyway,
these are all the rage these days.
What the TV?
Yeah, it's like
movies.
It's been it used to be just like really shitty network TV versions of these movies, and now they're getting like big name stars and cable budgets and everything. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean,
David Mamet wrote the Phil Spector story, didn't he?
Yeah, and there's going to be another Bernie Madoff movie on HBO, directed by Barry Levinson, starring Robert De Niro and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Jesus Christ!
Wow. so there. At least De Niro's taking a break from the comedy. Jeez, get another comedy from that guy. I don't know. Anyway, guys. Abrahams, Zucker, Naked Gun, Airplane. Anything else on your mind before we begin to wrap up our return episode here?
Do you see any connection between what these guys are doing and the Marx Brothers? Any pre-comments for our in preparation for our next episode, Tom?
Yeah, it's funny, when you I watched The Naked Gun the night after you and I were watching. I mean, Joe and I, this we should bring up because you and I spent like a good 2 hours watching old comedy.
Yeah, we watched Who's on First.
We watched Who's on First. We were watching
vaudeville.
Yeah, we're watching a scene from a night at the opera, and that you said that scene with the orchestra where it turns into a duel. And you're like, oh my God, that's Frank Drebin. You're like right there, like that's Frank Drebin. That's Frank Drebin. It made sense to me because I started to watch the Naked Gun movies the day after, and it just totally made sense that he is just channeling a lot. Like Nielsen is channeling a lot of that stuff that they're doing. So yeah, I definitely see it. But Joe, we watched Who's on First. We watched the Honeymooners episode.
That's right.
Which is outrageous, and a few other things. We're watching scenes from Airplane 2. We had a really great time doing that. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. You know what, man? And I just putting these two, like trying to tie these guys together. I have heard them mention the Marx Brothers, the Zuckers, in an interview actually. But one thing that ties them together, look, the Marx Brothers are probably the height of vaudeville. You know, right at the height of vaudeville, they made that transition into film, which was fucking awesome. And I think what these guys share is that they started all their comedy live as well. You know, like they had these theaters in Milwaukee or whatever, and then they started another one in Hollywood somewhere. And a lot of the timing and learning how comedy works happened live, and they were able to translate it over. And I think that's something
I definitely when we kick off the next episode, we're going to talk about Duck Soup right away. And that's definitely something I want to bring back up on the next episode, Joe. Because going from that vaudeville performance to in front of a camera is just really impressive. And we'll again with my intro and all that, we'll talk about all that stuff.
But even with these guys here, the Naked Gun, that's where they figured out how comedy works, which is exactly how the Marx Brothers figured out how it works. So I thought that was just really interesting. And then just the other thing is that, Frank Drebin is causing this mayhem
constantly.
Sort of unwittingly, which is different than what the Marx Brothers were doing, where they were sort of had the mischievous kind of chaos. You know what I mean? Where they kind of knew what they were doing in a way.
It
you
was
know
all
what I mean?
planned out.
It was just interesting watching them in conjunction together. So.
Any final thoughts, Bill?
I love the heritage of all that stuff you guys are talking about. The whole Borscht Belt scene that all the great vaudeville comics trained themselves on, and then that whole movement from theater to radio to television and film and everything. That's one of my favorite subjects in the world. So
cool. So we're definitely next episode, man. You're in,
and
you're in like Flint.
And First Night is not such a good movie, in case anyone is wondering.
Oh, by the way, what's his name? One of the Zucker brothers didn't. This is real. I can't believe I almost forgot this. Directed Ghost.
I think Abrahams did, right?
Oh, it was
Jerry Zucker directed Ghost and First Night. He was the only one out of that bunch to really try drama seriously.
But listen, Ghost. That lives on, that film. People will always adore Ghost. And he got an Oscar win, I think, for Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
For that. So there you go, Jerry Zucker.
He spoofs his own movie.
They do, yeah. The Naked Gun doing
He made it just so he had something to spoof.
That's great.
Billy, what the fuck is First Night?
Oh, my God. It's a really awful Arthurian movie with Sean Connery, Richard Gere.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that sounds like hell.
It was.
Is that like a mid-90s movie?
95.
I think. There you go. I think I remember that. That is really awful. First Night.
Jerry Zucker was really trying to legitimize himself there for a while.
Right. Well,
how dare he?
Yeah. Joe, Ghost.
Yeah, I haven't seen that since the 80s. Or
Ghost.
Patrick. That must have been in the 90s, right?
What Ghost? I think if I had to guess, I think Ghost would be 1990. If I.
That's it.
Yeah.
1990. Yeah. Ding, ding. We have a winner.
Thank you very much. Ghost. I love it. Jeff, any final words about these guys before we say goodbye?
I'm just so glad that I got to watch that first one again.
Yeah.
I saw it. I don't even know if I saw the whole thing when I was younger, but I know I had seen it at least in parts. But like, there's just such like like absurd silliness that I love is so present in that. Like when they're in the lab and they go from one room to the other, and Frank just goes around,
just walks around the set.
Like, it's so simple, and like if you were not paying attention for a second, you'd miss it. But like it's so funny, and it's my favorite kind of stuff.
And Enrico Palazzo and that whole umpiring.
That's the biggest difference between these two movies is the climax scene, because you can't beat that fucking baseball.
Unbelievable.
It's fucking brilliant.
That could be just a short film. It's like a really good. That is so well done. It's brilliantly executed. Brilliantly.
It is. That whole climax is good. You can't top that in these kind of movies. You know what I mean?
The Cutting Room Movie Podcast back, season 7 underway, episode 98 coming to a close. Next episode, I'm going to be introducing Duck Soup. Thank you, Joe, for giving me the oldest film that we've ever covered here on the Cutting Room Movie Podcast. I think it beats Freaks, actually. So I had to do that one. So why not? I'll do Duck Soup. Billy, you're doing Blazing Saddles. We'll be talking some Mel Brooks. We'll be talking some Marx Brothers. Totally looking forward to it. We'll see you all in a couple of weeks. Just a couple of reminders. The music is done by the Zillatones. You can check them out at www.thezillatones.com. Search for them on Reverb Nation. Joe, real quick, book deal. How's it going?
Waiting. It's good. Book will be out in August.
Okay. So we're narrowing it down. We got a month here. It's coming out this year, August. Things are happening.
Yes, slowly but surely. I guess it takes a while to get these things underway. So yeah, it's happening.
Very
and
cool.
Look forward in August out of this fall.
Awesome. Show's produced by Joe Christiana and myself, Tom Detloff. We'd also like to thank Jeremy Garcia of Dartboard Cinema. He helps us out doing our social networking. Thank you very much, Jeremy. I'm sure we'll hear from him by the end of the season. Also, check out Max Cook's wine blog and his adventures out there on the West Coast at maxcookuncorked.com. And check out Adam Shoulder's Starland PC pilot episode at starlandpc.com. We'll be back in a couple weeks. Until then, we're over and we are out. Ciao.
Tune in next time to satisfy more of your strange desires. The Cutting Room Movie Podcast. We do chicken right.